Carson Shaffer, The Meaning of Life. The Meaning of Life, Carson Shaffer.
The Japanese say you only live twice. Once when you're born, and once when you stare death in the face. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, the day that I stared death in the face, I went to bed. I had some tightness in my chest, but I stretched and said, man, getting old stinks. If I'd known what was about to happen, I wouldn't have thought getting old stinks all that really much. I woke up around midnight, and there was no doubt in my fine military mind that I was having a heart attack. Absolutely crushing chest pains, drenched in sweat, heart racing like a jackhammer, 200 beats per minute. I shook my wife awake, said, Cindy, I'm having a heart attack. Oh yeah, I'm sure. Paramedics are really mellow. Oh man, just a couple things, we do T-waves, no big deal, we're going to check you out, take you in, just make sure you're doing all right. Of course, while they're saying that, they're popping a nitroglycerin and an aspirin in me about every 30 seconds. The pain wasn't all that bad. The time Colonel David Friedman stuck a needle directly into the roof of my mouth surpassed the pain of a heart attack. But it took that to top it. And you didn't have that fear of death with the dentist needle, although I understand a lot of people do. About halfway to the hospital, the driver says, 10 minutes. The EMT paramedic sitting next to me says, you need to make it in 5. In the frozen tableau of that moment, I had an epiphany. You can die from a heart attack. Who knew? I wasn't ever going to die. More nitroglycerin, more aspirin. The night before, I'd been at the Whiskey River Saloon singing Highway to Hell. And so you can imagine my surprise to find myself reciting, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. More nitroglycerin, more aspirin. As some of you may know, I used to be a touring rock musician, and I rather embraced the rock musician lifestyle. You know that whole sex, drugs, rock and roll thing? Do you know that can be hazardous to your health? I never got the memo. I smoked 2 packs a day, and like the song says, I drank enough whiskey to float a battleship around. Diet? Bacon and tater tots for breakfast, a pair of Big Macs for lunch, thick chocolate shake to top it all off every day. Suffice it to say, I've had enough touring rock musician moments that the Blues Brothers movie and Spinal Tap is more like a documentary for me. They rushed me to Jess Parish Hospital in Titusville. And if you ask me, that is the finest collection of medical personnel since Hippocrates hung out a shingle in 440 BC. Great group of people there. They wheeled me in, took my gurney into room number 3, wired me, impaled the paddles on my chest, left me. I looked at my wife after about a couple of minutes and said, you know, honey, I'm starting to get lightheaded. Man, whoa, what a rush. And that was the end of my life. That lightheaded feeling? Make no mistake. That is the icy hand of death itself gripping your shoulder. Any last words? You got about 5 seconds, and that's it. Lights out. What was it like? It's the blackest black that you can imagine. I didn't see any lights. I didn't meet my grandparents. I wasn't reunited with my childhood dog, Sparky. It was just nothing. Game over. After I got home, I looked at my lifetime monument of collecting stuff and I realized that none of this matters. This is as transient as it gets. None of this matters at all. My kids were 6 and 8 when this happened. Cindy would have had to raise them by herself. I would have been dead, gone. Moving finger rights and having grit. Moves on. Back to the hospital. I open up my eyes and there's 20 people standing around me going, "What happened?" I said, "You died." "No." "Yeah, we had to shock you back. Twice." Wow, that's it. Over the next 3 days, they stabilized me and planted a stent in my chest and sent me home on Thanksgiving Day. Thanksgiving Day is a marvelous holiday for me these days. I don't smoke anymore and I rarely drink. And I try to eat better, and sometimes I do. As David Gilmour, the guitarist for Pink Floyd, said, "Run, rabbit, run. Dig that hole. Forget the sun. When at last the work is done, don't sit down. It's time to dig another one." So what's the meaning of life? Love one another. Hug your spouse, hug your kids. Because the only thing that we have is each other. And in the end, I found that's more than enough. Much more. Mr. President.